Hi guys, welcome to another NBA logo rebrand video. This time, I have logos that are supposed to be badge versions of other NBA logos. Maybe think of them as like Boy Scout or Park Ranger badges, I don't really know. Anyway, these logos are really cool, so I wanted to share them with you. And remember, I did not make any of these, but if you like this video, make sure you press the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into it. Starting out here with the Atlanta Hawks. Now their badge uses a really similar hawk to their logo from 2015. As you can see, it's like the full hawk, not what they have, the Pac-Man that they have now. It's the one from 2015. And the basketball actually is above the hawk. It's like kind of floating in the air instead of being held by its talons, which is what that logo typically has. But they do have elements of their current logo where it says Atlanta Hawks Basketball Club. This is what their current logo has too, so they put that in this badge. And I think overall this is a really cool design. I really like it. It's very clean, and it really reminds me of like a badge, and it would make a good representation of the Atlanta Hawks. And I do like how it says what year the franchise moved to Atlanta and what year it started. So that's pretty awesome. Next up for the Boston Celtics, I feel like this is a great representation of a badge for the Boston Celtics because obviously we have the Gaelic font at the top, the Gaelic type font at the top. It has a side profile shot of the leprechaun, which makes sense for the Boston Celtics. And obviously it has the two shamrocks in the middle. And it also has traditional Celtic design, which I feel like is a great touch on the sides here. So I think this badge is really cool. Next up for the Brooklyn Nets badge. This is actually really awesome. I think it's really cool. So as you see in the middle, there's a basketball net with a basketball going in it. But if you look closely, it doubles as the Brooklyn Bridge. So I think that's a really cool idea. And this logo is actually pretty similar to what their current logo is. It like has a similar shape kind of, and obviously the colors, which it has to be black and white. But I do think that the U shape in the middle, as you can see like in the background, I don't know if you guys can tell, it's like has the two horizontal lines and it kind of becomes a U shape. I feel like that has a meaning, but I can't really find what it is. So tell me in the comments if you guys know. Or maybe it doesn't have a meaning. I don't know. But I think this logo is pretty cool. And this badge is pretty cool. Next up for the Charlotte Hornets. This badge actually implements the Hornet from their secondary logo, their current one at least. And I feel like this logo is kind of basic because it only just has like the half circles on the top and like some circles in the middle with a basketball obviously. But I feel like it could be a little bit more detailed for a badge. But regardless, I think this is a really cool looking badge. Next up for the Chicago Bulls badge, immediately you can tell that this badge is really detailed. The bull obviously has a ton of detail, and you can see how intricate it is with all those lines on the horns and on the cheeks. And just overall the design of the face has a lot of different shapes. It's very cool. And I do like how they added this little bit. It's just the steam coming out from its ears, and it's like a well-known joke that when people get mad or when bulls get mad, like steam comes out of their ears. It obviously doesn't happen, but you know. And I think overall this has a lot of good detail, which is what a badge should have, and I think the design is really cool. Next up for the Cleveland Cavaliers badge. This badge actually takes a lot of inspiration, I feel like, from European family crest designs. You can see how the two swords are actually crossing each other, and the shield in the background, which is really common in family crests. So obviously they really had to include the basketball just to remind you that this is actually a Cleveland Cavaliers badge. Next up for the Dallas Mavericks badge logo thing. This basically just has a simplified version of their horse inside of a ball logo, which is what they currently have on their logo. But it's kind of just simplified. Doesn't have as much detail, which I would want for a badge. And it obviously has the two stars at the top, which is also included in their current logo, I like that touch. But I feel like this logo design, or this badge design, is kind of basic, and there isn't much really detail that has to do with the Dallas Mavericks at all. Next up for the Denver Nuggets badge, this one's a little plain as well. So they have the mountain in the middle of the ball over here, and they obviously have to have the two crossed pickaxes. And I think the font, the Denver Nuggets font, especially the Nuggets part, reminds me of like one of their previous logos, but I'm not really sure. But I think this logo is a little simple, a little plain. Next up for the Detroit Pistons badge, this one obviously has to have a car piston right in the center of the logo. And as you can see, there's 4 bolts, I guess lightning bolts or whatever, on the side of the logo. And I feel like that represents the energy that's produced by car pistons. And I feel like this is a good representation of what a badge for the Detroit Pistons would look like. So I think this is a good job. So for the Golden State Warriors badge, they have the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a must and a classic on any Warriors logo. And what I like about this badge is it includes the head of Thunder, who is actually their mascot. It's like from their previous logos, it's the guy who like throws lightning bolts, kind of like Zeus, you know. And they have his head above the bridge right here. And also they have Golden State Warriors written in the water, I guess you could say, below the bridge, which would be representing the Bay in San Francisco and Oakland. For the Houston Rockets badge, this one features a rocket blasting off into space, and I feel like the basketball is supposed to represent the Earth. Maybe it's the moon. It's like the rocket passing by the moon. But I think it's a pretty cool logo, and I feel like the yellow, instead of maybe having white, which I feel like would be more common, is more fitting. I feel like the yellow is way more fitting for this badge. For the Indiana Pacers badge, I feel like this one's kind of like one of my favorites. It features the checkered stripes on the sides, which, the checkered flag in racing. And I feel like the ring around the basketball in the center, so you see the basketball in the center, and then there's like a ring around it. I feel like that's supposed to represent like a tire that's a rubber tire that's used for racing. And I feel like this is just a really great looking badge. For the Los Angeles Clippers badge, you guys all know how much I love Clippers logos that feature like a ship or something to do with a ship. And this one actually does. It has a ship, looks like sailing towards the sunset or maybe like away from it. And then on the water, obviously the water looks pretty cool and detailed. And I do like the two anchors on the sides of the logo. It adds a nice touch, so I think this badge is really cool. For the Los Angeles Lakers badge, this one features a basketball floating in the water, which is supposed to be like the lake. Like Lakers, you get that? And then, so they have two stars, I feel like representing Hollywood or like the celebrities that live in LA. And I feel like Los Angeles Lakers logos are kind of tough to redesign or rebrand because the Lakers don't really represent the city at all, but the name is historic because the team won so much in previous decades, so they have to keep it. But this one's tough. I don't know how much better you can really get. Next up for the Memphis Grizzlies, we have a detailed bear as the badge. And I was never really in Boy Scouts or anything, but if I had to think of a bear badge or like a grizzly bear badge, I feel like I'd pick this. It's pretty similar to what I would choose. It's pretty good detailed bear, but overall the badge is okay. It doesn't really have much other than the Grizzlies, but that's what they are, so I like this one. Next up for the Miami Heat badge, this one includes the ball with the fire that their typical logo has, but for some reason the fire here is triangles. It's like perfect triangles. I've never seen fire that's perfect triangles, so I don't know what they were doing there, the artist. And also on the bottom left side, there's like a lot of lines. I don't know why they're really there. This is probably my least favorite logo badge thing out of all of these. For the Milwaukee Bucks badge, this one uses like the full buck or a full deer as the logo, and it's also stepping on a basketball. And to fill a space, because if it would have had a lot of just plain space, he used like a bunch of lines coming from the center. So this one is okay, not my favorite badge, but it'll pass. Next up for the Minnesota Timberwolves badge, this one's really cool. I feel like the wolf in the center of it is supposed to like represent a constellation because you have the night sky with shown by the stars. And then the basketball, I feel like, is supposed to represent the moon, which is a great touch because obviously wolves howl to the moon. That's like a thing. And then I do like the trees at the bottom. It adds a nice touch representing the timber in Timberwolves. So it's a good badge logo. Next up for the New Orleans Pelicans badge, we have a full pelican featured on this logo. And then you can see the two fleur-de-lis have like arrows coming out of them, which is an interesting design. I've never really seen that before. And I want to know, what do you guys think those like 5 shapes at the bottom of it are supposed to be? Is it maybe like the feet of the pelican with like some flowers or something? I can't really tell, but let me know in the comments. Next up for the New York Knicks, we have the badge including like the Empire State Building, basically the whole thing. And then in the background you can see, I think it's supposed to be the New York skyline, which is interesting. And for some reason, this badge is like a different shape than every other one previously. It's very interesting. It's just a different shape. I can't really describe the shape even. but it's an interesting logo. For the Oklahoma City Thunder badge, this one features a whole buffalo, which, if you guys don't know, the buffalo, like a horde of buffalo, is supposed to represent, like the noise that they make is supposed to represent the thunder. That's why they're called the Thunder. But this logo also features like clouds and a lightning bolt, which is supposed to be thunder, so I don't know what they're doing here. Overall, I do like the colors of this logo. I think orange and blue look really good together. They don't have the other colors for the Thunder, but this one looks good too. So for the Orlando Magic badge, this one is just basically a top hat with a ball coming out of it, and I guess it's supposed to represent like a common magician trick where a rabbit comes out of a hat. This is kind of a bland logo, and once again, like the Milwaukee Bucks logo, they basically just have lines coming from the center to fill up any of the empty space. So it's alright. For the Philadelphia 76ers, this one features a Liberty Bell, which is representing the Declaration of Independence and Freedom in 1776, which is what the Sixers are named after. And then to incorporate basketball into it, they use the basketball as the clapper, which is the thing that's inside of a bell that hits it and makes the noise. So this is an interesting badge, and it's pretty cool. Next up for the Phoenix Suns badge, this one features a sun as the basketball, as you can tell up at the top. And it also represents the Arizona desert throughout the whole badge with the cactuses, and I think those are like rocks. I think they're red rocks or something in the Arizona desert, but it's pretty cool. And I like the little lines at the bottom here. I feel like that's either supposed to be the sunshine or maybe like the sand dunes, like the little divides in the sand. So it's a very cool badge. Next up for the Portland Trailblazers badge, this one just features a Trailblazers like skid mark around the basketball, which is what their actual logo is supposed to be. This logo isn't really that interesting. There isn't much featured. I don't know what you could really do. Maybe like a buggy from the Oregon Trail. I think that's what they're called or whatever. But other than that, I don't know what else you can do. So this one's not that great of a logo. Next up for the Sacramento Kings badge, this one is, I feel like, really cool. It's really detailed, like the lines super detailed, like all the lines for the mane looks really cool. And then obviously it's wearing a crown, which is King's crown, makes sense. And then I feel like for me it was subtle, maybe you guys saw it right away, but the basketball is actually the background behind the line. So I think that's really cool. And then the outline of the basketball, like the circles outside of it, kind of are unnecessary, but they added it in here anyway. Next up for the San Antonio Spurs, this badge is actually really cool. Above and below the words, they have like a Texas saloon style design, which I think is really cool. And the actual spur itself has a basketball in the center of it, which makes sense. And then the shape overall, I feel like it looks like a Wild West sheriff's badge, like for movies and stuff, or from actual thing. So I think this is a really cool logo overall. Next up for the Toronto Raptors badge, this one features a raptor in front of a basketball, but to me, the raptor kind of looks more like Reptar from Rugrats. If you guys ever watched that show, you might be too young or maybe even too old, I don't know. But that's what it looks like to me. And then I feel like this logo is really plain, just a basketball and the head of a raptor. So not my favorite. For the Utah Jazz badge, I feel like this one is a good incorporation of a team's name not making sense for the city that they play for. This one features mountains in the background, obviously representing the mountains in Utah where they ski a lot. And it also has like what looks like water, which is showing the Salt Lake in Utah. And one thing that looks really cool, I feel like it adds to it, is the musical note from the Jazz actual logo. Seems like it's like floating on the water, like music flows, and then the musical note is flowing on the water. I don't know, it's kind of corny, but I think it makes sense and looks cool. Finally, for the Washington Wizards badge, this one features like a really detailed wizard, like with smoke or a cloud around him. And for some reason, he's looking into a magical glass ball. I didn't know that wizards were sidekicks. I'm pretty sure they do magic, not look into the future. But besides the point, this one's an okay badge, not my favorite. Yeah. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and share this video with a friend maybe. And while you're here, why not check out one of my other videos?